our second elementary school open forum. We have here tonight, so my name is Hannah Hoff. I'm the principal at Bordeaux Elementary. And I have with me, first of all, Wendy Lankilis is here in the room with us. She'll be doing our translating for our second part of the open forum that will start at 7. For our Spanish speaking families, we will be translating and repeating the open forum at 7. Alex Brown-Smith is here, assistant principal from Mountain View. We have Mary Johnson, principal from Mountain View, and we have Amber Targus, principal from Evergreen, and she's going to start us off. Thanks, Amber.
Thank you, Hannah. So I wanted to celebrate some good things that have been happening in our buildings over the last couple weeks. So in the first few weeks, we were able to bring some students on campus and able to connect with them. We were also able to really work through some connection issues with online learning. And we were also able to get some kinders tested, which is our WA Kids that we do every year. So that was a great experience for that. Also, we are happy to report that our class meetings have been going really well and we've had really high attendance in those. It's also been a great time for us as principals and assistant principals to pop in and connect with students and remember why it is we do what we do. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mary Johnson from Mountain View.
Thanks, Mrs. Targus. You know, I think we can all agree that the start of this school year has been challenging for all of us. Remote learning, 100% online learning has never been done before. As a school and as families, we are truly learning how to navigate online learning together. We're here tonight to listen to your questions and your concerns. We hope that we will be able to answer many of them. However, if we are not able to, we will take them with us and we will hope to be able to respond with answers within the week. We hope that tonight we can all stay solution focused. If you have something personal about your child or personal about a teacher, we're going to ask that you please contact us directly. All right, we look forward to our time with you this evening. Hannah, would you like to get us started?
Yeah, so I would. The only problem is that I seem to have lost my YouTube link, but I'm getting close to having it back again here. I wonder if, Alex, do you have it up?
If you do click on the, sorry to interrupt. If
No worries.
go in the Zoom meeting, if you click on live streaming service, there's a view stream.
Thank you so much, Erin. This is why we're so glad that you are here.
So
I would. The only problem is now I've got the echo, but that's okay. I can handle it.
Do you mute it on YouTube so you don't have the echo?
Technology is always a fun experience. Always takes a little bit to catch up.
Thank you so much, Erin. This is why we're so glad that you are here.
Mary, I think it's your YouTube that is playing right now.
Mine?
Yes. Can you make sure you're muted? You're muted on YouTube. So
we're having a little difficulty for sure.
All right, everything sounds good, so you may continue.
Hannah, do you want me to pull up some questions?
Well, I'm in the YouTube live. I just don't see any questions yet. Am I missing them? Am I on a lag? Okay, Erin, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat right now. So I'm wondering if they're there, but I'm not seeing them, or if there really aren't any questions yet. No, there are no questions yet.
Would you like, I think that as administrators, we all have had amazing conversations with parents and families over the last week. And I can certainly think of some of the questions that they've had. If you would like me to just maybe share some information.
Sounds good. I can do that as well.
Does that sound good, Mrs. Hoff?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Will you let me know if a question comes up?
Yep.
Excellent. All right. So as I said kind of in my introduction, we are learning every day more and more about the K-12 program. We have learned by listening from many of our families and definitely from our teachers what is going really well, and there are definitely some things to celebrate. But we also hear loud and clear that there are some things that have been a little challenging for everybody. I had an analogy this week with my staff. You know, it's like pulling back an onion, and you pull back a layer and you're excited to see what's underneath it. And then sometimes it helps solve a problem, and sometimes it maybe opens up some new opportunities, and sometimes the onion makes you cry. So this experience has kind of been a little bit like that. So do you have a question, Hannah?
Well, I see a few starting to pop up in the box, so I don't want to interrupt. But
no, it's okay. I was just going to share what people are already experiencing.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Okay, so the first question is a sort of a statement followed by a question. So there are some populated school districts reopening schools up further north from us. Puyallup is one starting to offer 4 days a week class with 1 distance learning day. What are reopening plans here? So I can start. Dr. Apostle talked last night at the school board meeting about a meeting that he had with the Mason County superintendents, I believe, and that they had a meeting, another meeting, a follow-up scheduled for the 25th, I think, if I'm correct, to discuss just that, to start looking at our rates of virus rates and to determine, what's safe in terms of reopening in Shelton. And they're definitely putting together a plan to reopen here as well in a similar type of a hybrid. Did anybody else want to add to that? Okay. So then another question is.
I was just going to say, I think we're still like in the initial stages of getting that all together. Yeah. We really were looking at that when we were planning this summer for a hybrid, because that's how we were thinking we were going to bring back students. So we did spend some time looking at that, but I think, that's something we need to revisit and make sure that we're doing that safely and making sure that all those indicators are still relevant. So.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's the good news is we already started planning that. So we do have a lot of that planning work done. And it'll just be a matter of figuring out how we implement those plans at this point. Okay, the next question is, as a parent, are we going to continue K-12 throughout the entire school year, even while in a hybrid situation? So again, last night we heard at the board meeting that we are indeed going to continue to use K-12 in a hybrid model. And the reason for that is that we would have seamless instruction and seamless learning if we were to have to go back to 100% online. And then we would also have online learning happening seamlessly with what we're doing in the classroom in our hybrid model. Okay, go ahead. Yes,
real quick. But I do think what hopefully could look different is while we would stay with the K-12 platform, I would definitely expect that on the days the children were in school, they would not be sitting on their Chromebooks doing K-12. The teachers would be able to teach some lessons from the K-12 or lessons that they would prepare that work or integrate with K-12 so that when they're back home on those other 3 days, they could continue the work. But I don't think the plan is that they would be sitting doing K-12 at school. We want that to be to look much more like what a regular school day would look like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add that's the benefit of having that hybrid is that's our time to connect. That's our time to really set the intention for the rest of the week too. So when the students are working at home, they clearly understand what they're working on for the rest of the week, even though we're not in front of them per se and they're not with us, really still making sure that they know what the week looks like. So thanks, Hannah.
Exactly. Thank you, both of you. Okay, so the next question is says, actually, I think it's 2 parts. It says, what are we doing about teachers being available? So I believe that all of our teachers have office hours, and they're also available at the beginning or throughout each block basically of learning for the day. So they start with their class meetings in the morning, and then they have perhaps an ELA block where they start with a lesson, and then they're available for the rest of the block. And I think that's pretty similar at all 3. There's a second part of that question, and I guess this one is specifically for you, Mrs. Targis, and I'm not sure if this is, specific to a student, but it's Sierra Valley, and she's wondering if you could share what you spoke about earlier. She says what her questions are. So I'm not sure if this is the right place for that, but I just thought I would read that out to you.
Yeah, actually, because there was some that, that's what Mary was talking about, some questions that parents had had. Yeah. And so a lot of them were focused around, we had talked about what was the contents that were in the kit. And Sierra, I owe you, because she was actually walking me through, because she has a unique situation where she has a kinder, a first and second grader. So I was really able to say, what have you got so far? So that was helpful to kind of piece that together and really, be able to connect and figure out what was in those contents. We also talked about different accommodations and different things that were available. So, the special circumstances of, when are we doing packets? When are we not doing packets? And so we still need to follow up on that conversation tomorrow too. I'm just putting that plug in your ear, but really those specific things and just general concerns that parents are overwhelmed. And I've had many of those conversations today, is that this is a lot. And so really making sure, I'm trying to make myself available for those conversations of what can we do to make it easier on you all. And so I think those conversations, and the one I had with Sierra today and the one I've had with multiple parents, has really enlightened me to the challenges that parents are facing and the reality of what we can do to make it better for them. And so really reaching out to the teachers, letting them know, and really trying to loop everybody in for support. So that's what we spent today talking about. And it was a wonderful conversation. And I learned a lot. And I think that's part of the process that we talked about, is we're all learning alongside each other, and the ability to listen and really hear the concerns and work forward and create change is important. So thank you for being here.
I wanted to kind of add to that. So as Alex and I have been sitting in doing some of our planning, we've been sitting in on some of our grade level planning. We're hearing from our teachers, because they are communicating with their parents, obviously more often than myself as a principal has an opportunity to. And so they're taking those things to heart. And so, for example, in kindergarten today, the conversation was all around what can we do and how can we structure our lessons so that there is not the need for there to be a learning coach at home, because we know that many families are not in a position to be able to sit there with one child, let alone 2 or 3, for 3 or 4 hours a day. And so our teachers are, now that they're a little more familiarized with the materials, they're looking at that, and they're looking at how they can record the lessons and maybe put them in the place of some of the K-12 lessons, so that they're really doing the not only the instructional part, but also some of the learning coach part. And so I really hope that over the next couple of weeks, we can see that maybe some of that pressure has been taken off our families. And so it's more like what the teachers are used to doing, in a traditional classroom.
Yeah, I would agree with what Amber and Mary said, both, of course. The same thing's happening at Bordeaux. We're really listening to feedback from parents, and we're trying to make changes as quickly as we can, and to be, responsive to that feedback, because it really does help us. We know that you are partnered with us and that you're doing a lot of the work at home, obviously a huge amount of work at home with your kiddos. And we are trying to make it as, easy isn't really the right word, but we're trying to make it possible for you to do what you need to do in your life, and also feel like you're supporting your child. And, we want to take as much of that off of your plate as we possibly can. And hearing your feedback is really helping us to figure out how to do that better each day. So we appreciate that.
And Hannah, I was going to add on to that as well too, is that's a conversation we had as well, is about schedules and, how they could look different now that we know what the platform can do. And we know that our individual grade levels need different things, because if you walked into our buildings, you would see kindergarten is doing different things than first graders and second graders, and they have schedules. And it's okay to admit, this isn't working. We need to make adjustments, and we need to do what's best for our students. So that's a process we're going through in our building right now. So it takes time, but we're listening to feedback, and we're trying to make adjustments from there.
Exactly. Thank you. Okay, so I only see one other question in the chat here, and the question is, it's a good one, and I actually have an answer. How can Spanish-speaking families access these forums? How can we hear their voices and concerns? And boy, we want that too. So actually, the second half of this open forum, we have Wendy Lanquilas here, because she is going to be translating the second half of the forum. So we've advertised that to all of our families and to our Spanish-speaking families specifically. And we're hoping that our Spanish-speaking families will join us at 7 o'clock. and start to ask their questions. We will basically repeat our introduction. So if you want to stay, of course, you're welcome to stay and hear the different questions that pop up. But we will repeat our little introduction at the beginning at 7 o'clock approximately. And then we have Wendy here. She'll translate those introductions so that our Spanish speaking families can hear the same things that you all just heard from us about what's happening at our schools and how we're getting things rolling. And then she will be here to translate any questions in English into Spanish so that our Spanish speaking families can hear and understand those, as well as any questions that are asked in Spanish, she will translate for us so that we can answer them. So we are ready to do that tonight, and we will continue to do that moving forward. And we recognize that we haven't had the opportunity to do that as much as we would like. So we're trying to fix that tonight. Anything else about that from you guys or from Wendy?
Not about that, but if we don't have another question, I had something that into my mind when
thank you,
Jarvis was talking. Best laid plans. There's always some things that just happen that make those best laid plans never come quite to fruition. However, I will often say that sometimes the curves that those are thrown at us tend to be some of our best learning lessons and some of the best decisions and changes we could ever make. So, we thought that we were going to do some things that we have not actually been able to do. So for example, we want really hard to make sure that all of our lessons that we are teaching throughout the day can be done synchronously, meaning live, and also asynchronously. Very hard word, sorry. However, we've had some challenges with the Class Connect platform that we have been able to work, directly with their tech department, and our teachers are getting training as recently as just after school today. So we have not been able to record lessons and save them for other students at the degree to which we had hoped to originally. But we're getting there. We're getting there. So we really are encouraging and want to keep most of our work in our K-12 platform. We think that that's best, that we're not having students and families having to go to a variety of different places to access the materials and the things that they need. However, some classrooms have had to continue to do Zoom lessons while the teachers are working through some of the challenges with Class Connect. And some of those things you guys as parents have experienced, such as only so many kids being allowed to be on the screen at the time or talk. And so the K-12 department, Class Connect is actually, while it's part of K-12, it's actually part of a program called Neuro. And so we've been able to send our ideas directly to Neuro to say, hey, you know what, we're used to teaching where we can see our entire class and the kids can interact. So there are some good changes that are coming, but they're not things that happen overnight. So we are hoping to quickly get everybody up to speed on this new program so that we can offer both that synchronous and asynchronous lessons for all of you.
And I'm going to add something to that, Mary. One of the things that I was thinking about is how at our first elementary school forum, open forum, we talked about the schedule for the day. And we still have schedules in place, of course. But one of the things that we've really been at Bordeaux, and I'm not sure if I can speak, but I'm assuming I can speak for the other two elementaries because we've stayed pretty close in contact, but I don't want to, you feel free to jump in. But one of the things that we have tried to really kind of balance is balance schedule with flexibility. So we realize that it's really nice to have that routine and that structure, and that, I know that my kid has to log on at this time and this time and this time in order to get their lessons and that kind of thing. But then we also have so many people who are unable to follow that schedule. And we're really trying to meet everyone's needs and trying to create some flexibility around that scheduling. So again, once we have a more consistent ability to videotape those lessons, then we will be able to provide more of that flexibility. Okay, I see that there are lots more questions popping up, so I'm going to
Thank you.
switch back to the questions. Thank you. Okay, what's the plan with providing the materials for the 3rd and 4th graders with this K-12? I think schools need to open up for kids that struggle with online. Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Okay, so the 3rd and 4th grade curriculum is meant to be digital only. So I think there's been some confusion about the fact that that curriculum refers to a workbook, and the workbook is really meant to be the actual PDF pages that you can open on the screen. We do know, however, that that has been another challenge point for us in terms of how we open them, download them, fill them, and then share them with our teachers. So that's another thing that we've been working on. And again, you know, as we adjust to the feedback that we're getting, we may find that we do need to provide more print materials at different points along the way. So that is something that we're open to doing as soon as we figure out at what point it would be best to do that. And we can totally agree that we would love to have kids in our schools that are struggling with the online. We know that it's hard for a lot of our kids. It's not ideal, obviously. And just as soon as we can bring kids back and keep them safe, that is definitely our #1 priority. So we're with you on that one. We have quite a few more questions, ladies and gentlemen. Would you like me to just keep going, or would anybody like to add to that one?
Well, why don't you keep going, and we'll see if things pop in my mind, but they might come up in another question.
Sure. There's another question that I addressed in a robocall this week. It was, will we need to return the K-12 materials for kinders? So there is a suggestion, and it may not be worded quite as a suggestion, but from the K-12 company that materials get returned. And my understanding is that that is a suggestion, and it is something that they would like to see happen, but that if it doesn't happen, you will not be held responsible financially for not returning those materials. Anyone else want to add to that?
I was going to say, I heard some of that today, actually, from somebody coming in for WAKIDS testing, and they were questioning it. And it was the first time I had really heard it mentioned. So I thought it was worth looking into, and it was something new. So like I said, we're learning alongside every day.
It's a worry for sure. Yeah, it's a worry that's out there. Like, well, what if they destroy them? What if they don't survive? It's okay. We will not count it against anyone, and we will not hold anybody financially accountable for it. Okay. The next, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that was the main concern. That's what the concern I was hearing from the kindergarten parents that were coming today, is that they were worried about their kinders losing a piece of something and not getting it all back in one piece. So perfect.
Oh, this is sweet. Okay. All right. So the next one is, where do you get the numbers to decide when to go back? Our county has 68,919 people in Mason County as of 2020, with 407 people positive in nearly 8 million. I think that's what that means. 73 kids, that's less than half of a percent. So we are taking our guidance from the health department, and they are providing some pretty specific guidance about when it's safe to open. And then the flip side of that is how we operate once we, so yes, it may be that it's safe to open, and yet how we bring kids back can create a new unsafe environment. So we don't want to create an unsafe environment by doing it the wrong way. So we want to make sure that we take the steps to implement a safe plan to bring kids back. And as far as when we get the go ahead for that, we get it from the health department.
Yeah, so I'd like to add on to that. That's okay, Mrs. Hoff.
Thank you. Of course.
She's exactly right. We get our guidance, and I know that at our last report, the numbers are coming down, which is exciting. And I think we have to be in a low risk. There might be a color attached to that. I really apologize. So that is like the first part is, okay, where are we as a county with our numbers, and are we okay to move forward with a plan to look at phase B? But then with that comes the necessity to, it's not as easy as just being able to say, okay, we're ready to come back. We now need to still use the actual safety guidelines and the PPE requirements that the state has put out. So we still have to look at how are we going to bring, how many kids can we have in our classrooms to keep everybody 6 feet apart, And so let's say that's 10 kids in a classroom. All right. So if we were going to bring in half of the class, how would we get them here? How will we get them through through their temperature taking, through attestation on any of the COVID symptoms? So there's a lot of other pieces that those guidelines still stay in place of things we need to be able to accomplish. So we did do some work in July around what that might look like. But it will definitely require, I'm sure, as you can all imagine, a lot of coordination. Where do kids, how do we decide who comes on Monday and Tuesday, who comes on Wednesday and Thursday? So we want to get to that place, but we know we must follow the guidelines, because the worst thing would be to come back and have to go back out because somebody gets sick, or worst case, somebody gets sick and has any sort of lasting, health issues because of that. So it's almost a twofold plan.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, we've got lots of questions, and we only have about 5 minutes until we were planning to switch into the Spanish translation version. We might be able to push out just a little bit and then stay a little longer if people are okay with that. Okay, so the next question is, I think, an easy one. Is it possible to have more mobile hotspots distributed? I have strong Wi-Fi at home, but daycare does not. If I could get a hotspot, my fourth grader could attend school while at daycare. 100% absolutely contact your fourth grader's principal, whoever it is, and we will, or even just the front office, and we will make sure that you get set up with a hotspot to deal with that.
As well as shared at the board last night, we are working closely with our childcare, our daycare providers. So
yes.
the 4 largest daycare providers in Shelton. And so we're coordinating with them, not just about hotspots, but also about how K-12 works and what we can do to help support them so that they can take on maybe some of that learning coach or that help for the kids. And then we'll be branching out to some of the smaller daycares as well to try to get hotspots and internet out there for them.
And I was going to say that one thing I feel like we have some pretty good systems set up for in each school is making sure that, everybody is having access internet wise and making sure we're getting hotspots out there. We have people doing home visits to drop off hotspots. I mean, it's really kind of an all hands on deck right now, and just making sure that we're getting everybody connected, whether that's, we got to learn how to use a Chromebook, we got to learn how to set up the hotspot. It's been a pretty great experience that everybody's willing to pitch in for that. So yes, let's get them hotspots. That sounds great.
Hotspots for everybody.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm kind of looking through the comments, and it feels like, and I really do not want to I don't want to miss anybody's question. So I just want to say, if we run out of time and your question doesn't get answered tonight, obviously, or I hope this is obvious, that we would love for you to just connect with us. Anyone you see on the screen, you can call our front offices and they will connect you directly to us and we will answer your questions. Some of what's happening in the chat is actual chat, which is nice. You're talking to each other. So I'm not trying to ignore that. I'm just trying to focus on the questions that are specific questions. So the next question is, did someone look deeper into the K-12 curriculum to make sure it is aligned with the standards like NGSS and CCSS and since time immemorial? So I do believe that, yeah, would you go ahead?
Well, I mean, I can answer, I think, a little bit of that. I definitely know that it aligns with the K-12 curriculum aligns with the Common Core standards. And for the state of Washington, we have our Washington State Learning Standards, and some of them are higher than the Common Core standards. So when we purchased the K-12 curriculum, in some of the content areas like ELA and math, we actually got what was called an appendix or an addendum, I so apologize, that actually takes that Common Core standard and raises it up just a little bit. There is some correlation to the Next Generation Science Standards, but that's one of the work, that's really a big chunk of the work that our teachers are doing, is going through that curriculum and trying to pick the lessons that really hit our essential standards. So we have a lot of Washington State Learning Standards, but in there are the essential ones, the ones that are really need to be mastered by the end of a particular school year for the child to be ready the next year. So we're really trying to identify what maybe those essential standards are and teach them deep and teach them well. And so I suspect that you would see that there will be some lessons and some things that are left out because they may not correlate exactly with what we're doing here.
Okay, the next is sort of a statement, but sort of a question I think we should respond to. I have a child with an IEP. I'm a single working outside the home. There are a few platforms he needs to sign into, not all successful. He is completing assignments, but having issues submitting it. So would one of you like to respond to that?
Well, I wish I knew which platform they were trying to submit.
Yeah.
I would say that if you're trying to submit an assignment in K-12, you probably are having some challenges. We know today I was in a training with 30 other kindergarten and first grade teachers, and there is something on K-12 called file sharing. And we were like, tell us more, please. So we've asked for some more how-to kind of videos to help us maneuver how to do that. And I think that that is maybe for kids that have that work at home as it arrives over the next hopefully the week. We're having more challenges, I think, when we're thinking about our 3rd and 4th grade students trying to submit work. So we're trying to do some workarounds. How can we get work so we know how the kids are doing and we can provide feedback, because it's a huge part of what teachers do. It helps them guide and adjust their teaching. But it's definitely an obstacle we are up against right now. And I think I would say that it's probably in all of our buildings, and everybody's working feverishly to figure out a way to be able to get work back so that, you know, that there's a motivation for doing it, and the teachers then can really adjust learning.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, you know, you can reach out to any of us too if you're having issues with that, because we're happy to help troubleshoot that and learn alongside as well too, because a lot of the issues we don't know that are happening until we hear about them. So it's really helpful to hear those pieces. And I know the teachers are getting creative with ways to share the information. I have some kinder teachers that are sharing, you know, their work that they're doing right there. So it's just different ways that teachers are really trying to adjust and meet the needs of students, but that feedback piece is very important. So thanks for mentioning that, Mary.
Okay, it is 7:02, and in response to the earlier question about how are we serving our Spanish-speaking community, I want to honor the time that we did say we were going to switch to our Spanish translated version. I want all of our non-Spanish speaking families to know that you're welcome to stay, that half of the content will be in English, and I'll continue to read questions from the chat, and we will continue to answer them. It will just take a little bit longer because we'll be translating in between, but you're welcome to stay and listen, and there could be new and different information that comes out in this second portion. The only thing is that you'll have to suffer through a little bit of repetitiveness. If you were here right at the beginning, you'll hear us do our introduction again. So thank you for bearing with us. And I will stick with the questions that came through earlier and start to sort through those, Mary and Amber, just so you know, okay?
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. All right, so Mrs. Lankilis, are you ready? Okay, so welcome back to our second elementary school open forum. My name is Hannah Hoff. I'm the principal at Bordeaux Elementary. I have with me tonight Alex Brownsmith. He's the assistant principal at Mountain View Elementary. We have Mary Johnson, principal at Mountain View Elementary. And we have Amber Targus, and she is the principal at Evergreen Elementary. And we have, I've got the, somebody has their YouTube up so I can hear the echo. Sorry, at Evergreen Elementary. And then we have Wendy Lankilis, who will be translating for us tonight. So Wendy, thank you.
Buenas noches, padres de familia. El nombre de la señora que quiero hablar es la señora directora Hannah Hoff, y les da la cordial bienvenida al foro de línea. Con nosotros tendremos los siguientes participantes. Tendremos a la señora Mary Johnson, directora de la Escuela Mountain View, Amber Targus, señora directora de la Escuela Evergreen, Alex Brownsmith, el subdirector de la Escuela Mountain View, y también tendremos a Aaron Miller.
Thank you.
Gracias.
I'm up next. In the first few weeks, we were able to bring some students onto campus to connect and complete some of our kinder testing. It's known as WA Kids. So we've been working on that this week in my building, and I know that other buildings have been completing that as well over the past few weeks. It's been really great to connect and see some of those families and kind of remember why we do this. Our class meetings at the beginning of the day are going really well, and we are connecting with a lot of students. We have high attendance, and it's also a great time for the principal and assistant principals to pop in and to really connect with those families and students and just get the day kicked off right.
La señora está diciendo de que en las primeras semanas se han tenido muchas celebraciones porque han podido traer a muchos alumnos a la escuela para poderles ayudar a conectarse y a poder aprender cómo participar en el programa que se está implementando en el currículo. Señora, si puede, if you can repeat a little bit more, it was kind of long, so.
Okay, I think it just at the end I was talking about the class meetings that are happening every day with the students and with the teachers, and how it's a great time for the principal and assistant principal to pop in and make those connections with families as well.
Ella está diciendo que en las la última semana ella participó en clases, reuniones de clases con las maestras, donde ella podía entrar y poder ver la gran energía y el desempeño que estaban haciendo las maestras y los alumnos en las clases en línea.
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Johnson from Mountain View.
Hola.
Y ahora va a pasar a la señora Mary Johnson.
I think we can all agree that the start of the school year has been challenging for all of us. Remote learning, that's 100% online, has never been done before. And I'll let you go, Wendy. Would that work?
Yes. Creo que podemos ponernos todos de acuerdo que el comienzo de este año escolar ha sido un gran desafío para todos.
As a school and as families, we are truly learning how to navigate online learning together.
Estamos de acuerdo de que estamos todos en esto, trabajando juntos y estamos aprendiendo el trabajo en línea. Esto nunca lo habíamos hecho antes como familia, como compañeros de trabajo, así que esto es nuevo para todos.
So we're here tonight to listen to the questions that you guys may have, and we hope that we'll be able to answer many of those questions. If there are questions we're not able to answer, we will take them with us tonight, and we will try to respond within the week.
Estamos aquí esta noche para poder contestar todas sus preguntas y inquietudes. Esperamos responderle a todas las que podamos, y si no podemos, podremos llevarlas con nosotros y esperamos responderles pronto.
It's our hope tonight that we can stay solution focused. If you have something personal about your child or about a particular teacher, we please ask that you contact us directly to address those.
Esperamos que esta noche podamos concentrarnos en la solución, y si usted tiene algún problema personal o tiene un problema con su hijo, por favor comuníquese con los maestros o con nosotros directamente para poderle ayudar.
Gracias.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so what I'm noticing in the chat is that there are a couple of big ideas that are coming out.
Ella nota que en el chat hay muchas ideas.
And I want to make sure our Spanish-speaking families know that they can type questions in the chat in Spanish.
Queremos hacerles saber a todas las familias que hablan español que pueden hacer preguntas en el botón del chat para que nosotros podamos responderle.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, so the big topics are, the first one is going back to school.
El problema principal que se ve es el tema de cuándo regresar a la escuela.
We talked a little bit about this before and mentioned that our superintendent and the superintendents in the Mason County schools of all the Mason County schools are working together to figure out how to implement plans that we have already developed for bringing kids back in a hybrid model as soon as possible.
Hablamos anteriormente de que ya estamos trabajando en un plan para poder el superintendente de la escuela del distrito se ha reunido con los otros superintendentes de los distritos escolares cercanos, que ellos están elaborando un plan para poder traer a los niños cuando sea sano y pronto.
Thank you, Wendy. We all know that this is hard on our kids and our families, and we would not be choosing it if we didn't feel that we had to in order to keep kids safe. We understand that there's a balance, and we're doing our best to bring kids back as quickly as we can.
Sabemos que es difícil, pero no hemos tomado estas decisiones si no es porque deseamos el bien de nuestros estudiantes.
And I'm going to add,
okay.
Oh, sorry. I was going to add that we also have done some planning around reopening schools. We did that this summer when we were preparing to come back into hybrid. That's what we were expecting to come back into right away. So that's what we're calling stage B. We're currently in stage A right now. So we have some plans in place for that, but I'm going to stop there so we can translate.
La señora directora de Evergreen está diciendo de que ellos ya tienen un plan, solo tendrían que trabajar más para saber cómo podrían aplicarlo, pero ellos ya han estado planificando cómo sería el regreso a clase, solo que necesitan trabajar un poco más en el plan.
So we need to revisit some of those and make sure, you know, some of the things that we put in place back then are still relevant right now, but we do have kind of a rough draft of what we're going to be starting with, so we feel pretty confident in moving forward with that.
Solamente tendrían que revisar el plan. Ellos necesitan revisar nuevamente el plan que se utilizaría para poder abrir las escuelas nuevamente, y también lo harían sanamente. Hasta que tengan bien revisado ese plan, lo van a compartir y van a dejarnos saber.
Thank you, Wendy. One of the other big topics in the chat, again, there aren't any, well, first of all, I think there is a little lag or a little delay, so I'm trying to stay caught up, but there are no questions written in Spanish yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and just keep addressing the big topics, okay? So the other big topic is about the fact that it feels like the expectation with K-12 is really that parents are doing homeschool and they're feeling a little bit out on their own and they're feeling out of their element, which of course we can totally understand. And we have been hearing that feedback for sure. And we talked about this a little bit last night at the board meeting about how our teachers are learning how to pull back on some of that learning coach responsibility, so that they are taking on more of the responsibility of the learning coach, so that you're having to take on less of that responsibility. And it's a process, and it will take time for them to figure out how to best do that to fit your needs and the needs of your kids. I'm sure Mary and Amber might want to say something about that too.
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, it's really tough to, I guess, gauge how much is too much and how much is not enough. So I think we can all agree that rolling out K-12 in its entirety is too much. Nobody has the expectation that our kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade kids should be sitting in front of a computer for 6.5 hours a day. That's not the intention. However, we also know that in some places or in some cases that is what has happened. So as you have provided that feedback to, again, both the teachers and to us as administrators, that has really led the conversation around what is most important. And we use the term a lot in education of stamina. So having children be able to just sit down and just immediately be able to sit for a period of time in front of a computer and do online learning is going to take time. They're not going to be able to just sit down and do it on day one. Obviously, a fourth grader would probably be able to do it a little bit better than a kindergartner. So really our teachers are taking that feedback. They're watching who's getting assignments done. They're reading the emails, they're talking to the teachers, to the parents and to the students as well around how long are some of these assignments taking. Some of the third grade teachers this past week did a little bit of a survey. So give us an idea, how much time are you spending in math and how much time are you spending in ELA, so we can adjust and look at all the different components in those programs and say, maybe there's some things we can hold back on right now. Because to be honest with you, that's what we do in the classroom. We don't roll out everything every single day. So I know many of you are seeing adjustments made to the schedules. One of the challenges that we have faced is that sometimes the adjustments the teachers are making don't necessarily show up on the child's actual daily schedule. So they're trying to communicate and say, okay, I know it says to do all these things, but please only have your children do these few things unless they want to do more. Because just like we do in the class, we do, in a traditional setting, some kids work faster than others and some work slower, some need more help. So we really are learning and adjusting and working. And I truly believe that as we spend more time in this platform and our teachers are able to use more of their teaching strategies and their creativity, that we're going to see this look quite a bit different in the next few weeks. You're laughing at me, Hannah.
I am not laughing at you, I promise. I just had a sudden recollection that we probably should have stopped a long time ago so that Wendy could translate all of the amazing things that you're saying.
I totally
I apologize. Using a translator is a skill, and it's a skill that we're getting better at. Okay, Wendy, can you talk a little bit about?
Lo que las directoras están diciendo ahorita es que aparte del tema de que todas las familias quieren regresar a la escuela, que abran las escuelas, el segundo tema es que las familias están teniendo dificultades con el programa K12. Y ellas están diciendo que ellas entienden que este programa o el aprendizaje que están teniendo los niños en casa está difícil. Ellas están escuchando los pedidos de los padres de familia, pero ellos están diciendo que poco a poco esto se va a mejorar. Va a haber un momento que el niño se va a aprender todos los pasos a seguir, a cómo hacerlo, y ya no van a tener problema. Tal vez es más fácil para los niños grandes de 4º grado, pero para los pequeños no. Ellas también entienden que son muchas horas que tienen que estar los niños en la escuela, en la computadora. Por eso ellas dan el consejo de que tomen recesos para que los niños no se puedan cansar, pero ellas, en pocas palabras, ellas están diciendo que entienden que el programa está un poco difícil, pero que se va a poner mejor porque están desarrollando estrategias entre ellas y las maestras para mejorar y dar un mejor servicio a las familias.
Thank you, Wendy. Wendy is amazing at listening and paraphrasing, understanding, and then communicating. She's really an amazing translator. We really appreciate you being here. Okay, I'm going to go back. There is one other big topic, but I want to go back while we're on on the subject and answer. There was a specific question that I remembered that was back in the chat, and it says, if K-12 is all in English, how are the dual language teachers supposed to teach the science portion in Spanish? If they are not teaching at least 50% of their time in Spanish, it's not dual language. So Wendy, will you translate that question for us? And I can do it again.
Yes.
Yes. I'll take it slow. Let me find it again, sorry. Okay, if K-12 is all in English, how are the dual language teachers supposed to teach the science portion in Spanish?
Okay. Si el programa K12 es todo en inglés, ¿cómo las maestras pueden enseñar la clase de ciencia en español?
All right.
If they are not, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, are you done? Sorry, did I
No,
catch up?
Go ahead. I think that's enough of the question you'll be able to address. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been working on this, and we've been working with individual grade levels. We've been meeting with them this week to create a plan for this, because we do have some unique differences, and that we have our English only strand, we have our dual language where the teachers actually switch teaching, and then we have our self-contained as well where the dual language program is happening. So we have a lot of wonderful programs happening, but there's a lot of differences in them as well too, and they're unique. So really looking at that, we've talked about different ways of recording in Spanish. So recording the instruction in Spanish to making sure that they have access to it, to doing the live lessons in Spanish as we would in the classroom. And so teachers are getting pretty creative in ways to do this, but really we're kind of focusing right now on ELA and math part. So I think that's really our next step, is really working together and figuring out how we can make that best for our students and for our families so everybody can access it. But that's a great question. I think I talked with that parent earlier tonight. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Wendy, do you want to try to translate what Amber just said?
I said that fast again. I apologize, Wendy.
No, it's okay. La señora directora de Evergreen está diciendo que en el caso de las maestras de Evergreen, ellas están trabajando con las familias que hablan español o con los estudiantes que solo hablan español y escriben español. Ellas están haciendo, grabándose las clases en español y para que ellas puedan ver las instrucciones en español. Y también están tratando de enseñarles que hay un botón en el programa de K12 de que puede traducir para algunos de los padres que necesiten que se traduzca. Es nada más lo que se está haciendo con respecto a las clases de matemáticas y ciencia y de lectura, es donde se está aplicando este concepto de que dan las clases en español y después se graban las clases en español y también las graban en inglés para estos estudiantes.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, so Wendy, I just sent you a screenshot of, there are 3 questions in the chat that are written in Spanish, and I could certainly try to read them to you, but I think you would do a much better job with my incredibly heavy English accent. I'm sure nobody would understand what they say. So when you get that picture, if you just give me a thumbs up and you could start with that first question, if you could read it in Spanish and then tell us what it says in English. Thank you. We're ready. So Wendy, if you would read that question in Spanish, the one from Rosario, and then translate it for us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Rosario Rodríguez. Pero como si son mis niños del kinder, ¿cómo van a aprender para meterse en K12? But my kids are in kindergarten. How are they going to learn to get in K-12?
Well, that is a very good question. Amber, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I was going to say the first couple weeks, actually, we've been working on accessing K-12, and we're getting actually our daily, at this point, login attempts to figure out who has not connected, what we can do to get them connected, and really problem solving around that. I'm speaking for myself, but I know it's probably true of all the elementary schools, is that my kinder teachers are working very hard to try to connect and make sure that everybody can access the platform. They're getting even creative in ways that they're using the platform, of doing a lot of live instructions, doing a lot of walking through, this is how you access it, and this is different ways that we can use the program to actually teach the skills, but adapt it to meet the needs of our kindergartners, because we know it is unrealistic to ask you all to sit in front of the screen for 6 hours a day. We realize that. Mary, were you going to add on to that?
Well, give Wendy a chance. Yeah.
Oh, shoot, sorry.
It's okay.
La forma que están trabajando las maestras para ayudarle a los niños de kindergarten es la siguiente. Ellos están haciéndole citas para tener reuniones 1 a 1 con el niño y con el padre de familia para poderle explicar los pasos de cómo navegar el programa K12. También ella está diciendo de que les están ayudando con videos para que puedan ellos ver cómo meterse y cómo hacerlo. Esta es la forma que les puede ayudar. Si usted, señora, tiene preguntas y necesita ayuda, puede pedirle a la maestra que le puede dar una cita para que le puedan ayudar 1 a 1 y explicarle cómo navegar el programa K12.
So I just wanted to add to that I'm not sure what school, did you say it's Rosario?
Yes, Rosario Rodriguez.
Okay, so I'm not sure what school, but my first suggestion would be at this point to also reach out to the family liaison at each of our schools. So if you were at Bordeaux, it would be Wendy, who is here with us tonight. If you were at Evergreen, it would be Lucrecia. And if you were at Mountain View, it would be Yvette Salamanca. I would reach out to them first. So we have been our family liaisons have been working in conjunction with our EL teachers, and kids are coming right onto campus. We're taking their Chromebooks out front. We're sitting with them, helping walk through. I could probably let Alex Brownsmith talk more about this because I bet you he has personally logged on and signed up over 100 of our kids. Alex, do you want to say just something real quick about that? No.
Let's give Wendy a chance real quick to say what you just said.
Okay, sorry.
Señora Rosario, en cada una de las escuelas primarias del distrito escolar hay una enlace familiar bilingüe. Que si usted llama a la escuela donde sus hijos de kindergarten van, si es en Evergreen, sería la señora Lucrecia Hernández, y si usted necesita una cita, llámela y ella le va a dar una cita para que pueda ver a la maestra y puede ella ayudarle a traducir, o si es viceversa, si es en Mountain View, la señora Ivette, y si es en Bordeaux, sería conmigo, y nosotros le vamos a ayudar a poderle encaminar y a poderle enseñar cómo ayudarle a sus niños de kindergarten a navegar el programa K12.
Thank you, Wendy.
And I was just going to add that getting students registered has been pretty much an all hands approach from everybody. And all the schools have been working together with the family liaisons, some of the administrators and other teachers to get as many kids registered as possible.
Thank you.
El señor subdirector está diciendo de que esta situación que estamos pasando realmente tenemos que estar todos juntos y cooperar todos y aprender juntos, ya que es una situación que nunca habíamos estado y lo estamos tratando de llevar a cabo con paciencia y con ayuda de todos en todo el distrito.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, Wendy, would you take the next question? This one is from Kat Kelly, but it's on behalf of a parent. Do you see that one? Okay. Thank you.
¿Qué pasa con la asistencia de mi hijo si todavía no tenemos internet? ¿Lo cuenta como ausente? Gracias. The question said, what happened with the attendance on my son? If he doesn't have internet yet, does this count as an absent? Thank you.
No, it does not.
Going to say that's a really good question, and depending on who the school it's at, just checking in and making sure that the main office knows as well. But we're keeping lists of who does not have hotspots and who does not have connections, and so we're making sure to make real efforts to connect with them and make sure we are trying everything we can to connect and get them connected and make sure everything's okay, and if there's anything else that we can provide.
But the state, go ahead, Wendy.
No le va a constar como ausencia. Si es de que usted no tenga internet en su casa, no es culpa suya ni culpa del niño, entonces se le va a excusar. Simplemente manténgase en contacto por teléfono con la enlace familiar de su escuela o con su maestra, dejándole saber, y ellos van a tratar todo lo posible para poderse comunicar con usted y ayudarle a que tenga internet y acceso a todos lo que pueda necesitar para que pueda mantenerse el niño conectado.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, there is another question from Rosario. Would you be willing to read the next one there?
Yes. Son niños que apenas están aprendiendo a leer. Es difícil para ellos. Son niños pequeños. It's mostly like a statement.
Okay.
Kids are very little. They're still learning to read. This is very hard because they're very little.
So actually, I'm glad she's making that statement because that was another theme from the questions and statements above. Hello. Wendy, many of the families are feeling like the curriculum is very, very difficult. It's very rigorous. And part of that reason is that obviously we missed out on some of our instruction for the end of the year. And I think that teachers are finding that as well, and they are adjusting as quickly as they can. That we don't want kids at their frustration level, we want them at their learning level.
Ella está diciendo de que nosotros entendemos que los niños están chiquitos y es muy entendible la preocupación que tiene usted con su niño, pero se está haciendo todo lo posible para poderle ayudar y apoyarle para que pueda salir adelante y puedan aprender. Dice ellos que había mucho aprendizaje que ellos no tuvieron el año pasado debido a que tuvieron que cortar el tiempo por la pandemia que estamos pasando. Por eso los niños están con poco entendimiento de cómo proceder con este proceso.
Did anybody else want to add to that?
No,
we have two more questions. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just agree. It is very
okay. Yeah. Okay, so two more questions. I'm actually, sorry, I forgot to send these to my friend Wendy so that she could read them for us. So I am going to do that now.
I can see them, Hannah.
Oh, thank you, Wendy. Okay, would you go ahead and read from Yanira?
Yanira Elizabeth say, mi pregunta es solo, ¿un maestro va a tener mi hijo? My question is my kid is only gonna have one teacher?
That is also a really good question. It depends.
And it continues. ¿No va a tener uno en inglés y uno en español?
And that one, so we don't have another one in English, is that what she's saying?
She's asking if she's gonna have only one teacher this time. Is he gonna have another in English?
Okay, that's a good question.
Green from the dual language program.
That's what I'm thinking as well.
That's what I'm thinking as well.
Amber, do you want to start? So she's basically saying she's wondering if she's only going to have one teacher, or will she have a teacher in Spanish and a teacher in English?
Thank you. Thank you. It's a little bit late, so I had a moment there, so I apologize. Yes, so they will have, if they're in the dual language program, they will have an English teacher and they will have a Spanish teacher. That's how the program is split up. But if they are in a self-contained dual language classroom, they will only have one teacher. So it depends what program they're in. So that would probably, we need a little bit more investigation on that, but I'm writing the names down too, so I can look into that and reach out as well.
Ella está diciendo de que si su hijo está en el programa para los dos lenguajes, él va a tener una maestra en español y una maestra en inglés. Pero si solo está en el programa de un lenguaje, solo va a tener un maestro que es de inglés.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, so there could be a little lag, of course. So I'd like to maybe just give it another 30 seconds or so. But it looks like that is it for all of the questions in the chat. Wendy, will you say that in Spanish? We'll take about another minute.
Vamos a dar un minuto más al tiempo aquí en el foro para ver si tienen más preguntas.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank everybody for kind of bearing with us the first time when we're working through this translation piece and trying something new and trying something different. It's what we're asking our parents to do. It's what we're asking our students to do and our teachers. So we appreciate you. We know that it maybe wasn't the most seamless process, but we're learning and we're trying new things. So we want to make sure that this is accessible to everyone.
Les queremos pedir a todos y les queremos dar las gracias por la paciencia y porque estamos aquí aprendiendo la forma nueva de tener un traductor en esto o traducciones en este tipo de eventos y reuniones. Pero estamos aprendiendo todos y esperamos que podamos mejorar.
Also, Wendy, there was a comment about how it may be easier for our Spanish-speaking families to be able to call into the Zoom, and so that they can actually voice their questions instead of trying to write their questions. I thought we had that function tonight, but clearly it doesn't seem that we do have that set up. So we will make sure to set that up for the next time around. And we apologize that people maybe were not able to call in. We haven't had any calls in, so I'm guessing that we did not have that set up for tonight. But we will set that up for the next time around.
En las otras reuniones en línea, normalmente hemos tenido un número de teléfono donde usted puede llamar con sus preguntas. Les pedimos las disculpas porque esta vez no lo pudimos hacer, pero para la próxima reunión en línea vamos a asegurarnos de tener ese número de teléfono y para que usted pueda hacer llamadas y hacer sus preguntas a todos nosotros.
Thank you, Wendy. And then also just to say, one of the people that wrote in asked if we would slow down for translation, which we're trying to do, and we appreciate that feedback. And then the other was, thank you for holding this forum and for holding a space for Spanish speakers.
Hay muchas personas que están dando las gracias por haber participado en ese evento y estamos muy agradecidos a todos los que estuvieron presentes.
Okay, excellent. And it looks like there may be some other feedback about how best to reach our Spanish-speaking families, so we'll definitely address that for the next time around. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. Oh, go ahead, Wendy.
También alguien está haciendo una pregunta en el chat de que cómo podemos ayudarle mejor a las familias en español. Estamos, la próxima vez que nos reunamos, daremos más respuestas a sus preguntas.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
go
much,
ahead.
Wendy. Did we get through all the questions as well, or were there still some other questions from the first half?
No, we got through all of the questions. We addressed all of the topics that were being discussed in the first half. And so, yes, we have definitely addressed everything that was brought to the chat. However, sometimes people don't feel like their questions were answered or addressed, which I totally understand as well. We think we've done it, but we haven't done it. So please feel free to follow up with an email or a phone call, and we're happy to answer your questions, and we will do this again.
Absolutely.
Hicimos todo lo posible para responder las preguntas que se presentaron en el chat, pero si hay alguna pregunta o alguna duda que todavía usted tiene, por favor no dude en mandar un correo electrónico o a llamarnos con sus preguntas y dudas y vamos a hacer todo lo posible para podérselas contestar.
Okay, thank you so much for coming, everyone, and we will say good night now, and we will talk with you soon.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Gracias a todos por haber estado aquí en esta reunión.